Welcome to day 46 of our Bible reading plan. We're reading Exodus chapter 13, Exodus chapter 14, 2nd Chronicles chapter 34, 1st Corinthians chapter 3 verse 1 to verse 9, and Psalms chapter 46. We're reading from the Berean Standard Bible, Exodus chapter 13. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Consecrate to me every firstborn male. The firstborn from every womb among the Israelites belongs to me, both of man and beast." So Moses told the people, "Remember this day, the day you came out of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. For the Lord brought you out of it by the strength of his hand, and nothing leavened shall be eaten. Today in the month of Habib you are living. And when the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Hivites, and Jebusites, the land he swore to your fathers that he would give you, a land flowing with milk and honey. You shall keep this service in this month. For 7 days you are to eat unleavened bread, and on the seventh day there shall be a feast to the Lord. Unleavened bread shall be eaten during those 7 days. Nothing leavened may be found among you, nor shall leaven be found anywhere within your borders. And on that day, you are to explain to your son, this is because of what the Lord did for me when I came out of Egypt. It shall be a sign for you on your hand and a reminder on your forehead that the law of the Lord is to be on your lips. For with a mighty hand the Lord brought you out of Egypt. Therefore you shall keep this statute at the appointed time year after year. And after the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanites and gives it to you, as he swore to you and your fathers, you are to present to the Lord the firstborn male of every womb. All the firstborn males of your livestock belong to the Lord. You must redeem every firstborn donkey with a lamb, and if you do not redeem it, you are to break its neck. And every firstborn of your sons you must redeem. In the future, when your son asks you, "What does this mean?" you are to tell him, "With a mighty hand the Lord brought us out of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. And when Pharaoh stubbornly refused to let us go, the Lord killed every firstborn in the land of Egypt, both of man and beast. This is why I sacrifice to the Lord the firstborn male of every womb, but I redeem all the firstborn of my sons." So it shall serve as a sign on your hand and a symbol on your forehead. For with a mighty hand the Lord brought us out of Egypt. When Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them along the road through the land of the Philistines, though it was shorter. For God said, if the people face war, they might change their minds and return to Egypt. So God led the people around by the way of the wilderness towards the Red Sea, and the Israelites left the land of Egypt arrayed for battle. Moses took the bones of Joseph with him because Joseph had made the sons of Israel swear a solemn oath when he said, "God will surely attend to you, and then you must carry my bones with you from this place." They set out from Succoth and camped at Etham on the edge of the wilderness, and the Lord went before them in a pillar of cloud to guide their way by day, and in a pillar of fire to give them light by night, so that they could travel by day or night. Neither the pillar of cloud by day nor the pillar of fire by night left its place before the people. Exodus chapter 14. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Tell the Israelites to turn back and encamp before Pi Hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea. You are to encamp by the sea, directly opposite Baal Zephon, for Pharaoh will say of the Israelites, 'They are wandering the land in confusion. The wilderness has boxed them in, and I will harden Pharaoh's heart so that he will pursue them. But I will gain honor by means of Pharaoh and all his army, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord.'" So this is what the Israelites did. When the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, Pharaoh and his officials changed their minds about them and said, "What have we done? We have released Israel from serving us." So Pharaoh prepared his chariots and took his army with him. He took 600 of the best chariots and all the other chariots of Egypt, with officers over all of them. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, so that he pursued the Israelites who were marching out defiantly. The Egyptians, all Pharaoh's horses and chariots, horsemen and troops, pursued the Israelites and overtook them as they encamped by the sea near Pi Hahiroth opposite Baal Zephon. As Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up and saw the Egyptians marching after them, and they were terrified and cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, "Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us into the wilderness to die? What have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Did we not say to you in Egypt, 'Leave us alone, so that we may serve the Egyptians'? For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness." But Moses told the people, "Do not be afraid, stand firm, and you will see the Lord's salvation, which he will accomplish for you today. For the Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to go forward. And as for you, lift up your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it, so that the Israelites can go through the sea on dry ground. And I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, so that they will go in after them. Then I will gain honor by means of Pharaoh and all his army and chariots and horsemen. The Egyptians will know that I am the Lord when I am honored through Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen." And the angel of God, who had gone before the camp of Israel, withdrew and went behind them. The pillar of cloud also moved from before them and stood behind them, so that it came between the camps of Egypt and Israel. The cloud was there in the darkness, but it lit up the night. So all night long, neither camp went near the other. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove back the sea with a strong east wind that turned it into dry land, so the waters were divided. And the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground with walls of water on their right and on their left. And the Egyptians chased after them, all Pharaoh's horses, chariots, and horsemen, and followed them into the sea. At morning watch, however, the Lord looked down on the army of the Egyptians from the pillar of fire and cloud, and he threw their camp into confusion. He caused their chariot wheels to wobble, so that they had difficulty driving. "Let us flee from the Israelites," said the Egyptians, "for the Lord is fighting for them against Egypt." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, so that the waters may flow back over the Egyptians and their chariots and horsemen." So Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and at daybreak the sea returned to its normal state. As the Egyptians were retreating, the Lord swept them into the sea. The waters flowed back and covered the chariots and horsemen, the entire army of Pharaoh that had chased the Israelites into the sea. Not one of them survived. But the Israelites had walked through the sea on dry ground, with walls of water on their right and on their left. That day the Lord saved Israel from the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the shore. When Israel saw the great power that the Lord had exercised over the Egyptians, the people feared the Lord and believed in him and in his servant Moses. Our next reading is 2 Chronicles chapter 34. Josiah was 8 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 31 years. And he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord and walked in the ways of his father David. He did not turn aside to the right or to the left. In the 8th year of his reign, while he was still young, Josiah began to seek the God of his father David, and in the 12th year he began to cleanse Judah and Jerusalem of the high places, the Asherah poles, the carved idols, and the cast images. Then in his presence the altars of the Baals were torn down, and he cut to pieces the incense altars that were above them. He shattered the Asherah poles, the carved idols, and the cast images, crushed them to dust, and scattered them over the graves of those who had sacrificed to them. Then he burned the bones of the priests on their altars. So he cleansed Judah and Jerusalem. Josiah did the same in the cities of Manasseh, Ephraim, and Simeon, as far as Naphtali, and in the ruins around them. He tore down the altars and Asherah poles, crushed the idols to powder, and cut to pieces all the incense altars throughout the land of Israel. Then he returned to Jerusalem. Now, in the 18th year of his reign, in order to cleanse the land and the temple, Josiah sent Shaphan, son of Azaliah, Maaseiah, the governor of the city, and Joah, son of Joahaz, the recorder, to repair the house of the Lord his God. So they went to Hilkiah the high priest and gave him the money that had been brought into the house of God, which the Levites at the doors had collected from the people of Manasseh and Ephraim, from all the remnants of Israel, Judah, and Benjamin, and from the people of Jerusalem. They put it into the hands of the supervisors of those doing the work of the house of the Lord, who in turn gave it to the workmen restoring and repairing the house of the Lord. They also gave money to the carpenters and builders to buy dressed stone as well as timbers for couplings and beams for the buildings that the kings of Judah had allowed to deteriorate. And the men did the work faithfully. The Levites overseeing them were Jahath and Obadiah, descendants of Merari, and Zechariah and Meshullam, descendants of Kohath. Other Levites, all skilled with musical instruments, were over the laborers and supervised all who did the work, task by task. Some of the Levites were secretaries, officers, and gatekeepers, while they were bringing out the money that had been taken into the house of the Lord. Hilkiah the priest found the book of the law of the Lord written by Moses, and Hilkiah said to Shaphan the scribe, I have found the book of the law in the house of the Lord. And he gave it to Shaphan. Then Shaphan brought the book to the king and reported, Your servants are doing all that has been placed in their hands. They have paid out the money that was found in the house of the Lord, and have put it into the hands of the supervisors and workers. Moreover, Shaphan the scribe told the king, Hilkiah the priest has given me a book, and Shaphan read it in the presence of the king. When the king heard the words of the law, he tore his clothes and commanded Hilkiah, Ahikam, son of Shaphan, Abdon, son of Micah, Shaphan the scribe, and Asaiah the servant of the king, Go and inquire of the Lord for me, and for those remaining in Israel and Judah, concerning the words in the book that has been found. For great is the wrath of the Lord that has been poured out on us, because our fathers have not kept the word of the Lord by doing all that is written in this book. So Hilkiah and those the king had designated went and spoke to Huldah the prophetess, the wife of Shallum, son of Tokath, the son of Ashrah, the keeper of the wardrobe. She lived in Jerusalem in the second district, and Huldah said to them, This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Tell the man who sent you that this is what the Lord says. I am about to bring calamity on this place and on its people, according to all the curses written in the book that has been read in the presence of the king of Judah, because they have forsaken me and burned incense to other gods, that they might provoke me to anger, and with all the works of their hands. My wrath will be poured out upon this place and will not be quenched. But as for the king of Judah who sent you to inquire of the Lord, tell him that this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. As for the words that you heard, because your heart was tender, and you humbled yourself before God when you heard his words against this place and against its people, and because you have humbled yourself before me, and you have torn your clothes and wept before me, I have heard you, declares the Lord. Now I will indeed gather you to your fathers, and you will be gathered to your grave in peace. Your eyes will not see all the calamity that I will bring on this place and on its inhabitants. So they brought her answer back to the king. Then the king summoned all the elders of Judah and Jerusalem, and he went up to the house of the Lord with all the people of Judah and Jerusalem, as well as the priests and the Levites, all the people, small and great. And in their hearing, he read all the words of the book of the covenant that had been found in the house of the Lord. So the king stood by the pillar and made a covenant before the Lord to follow the Lord and to keep his commandments, decrees, and statutes with all his heart and all his soul, and to carry out the words of this covenant that were written in this book. Then he had everyone in Jerusalem and Benjamin take a stand in agreement to it. So all the people of Jerusalem carried out the covenant of God, the God of their fathers. And Josiah removed all the abominations from all the lands belonging to the Israelites, and he required everyone in Israel to serve the Lord their God. Throughout his reign, they did not turn aside from following the Lord, the God of their fathers. Now we're going to read 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 1 to verse 9. Brothers, I could not address you as spiritual, but as worldly, as infants in Christ. I gave you milk, not solid food, for you were not yet ready for solid food. In fact, you are still not ready, for you are still worldly. For since there is jealousy and dissension among you, are you not worldly? Are you not walking in the way of man? For when one of you says, I follow Paul, and another, I follow Apollos, are you not mere men? What then is Apollos, and what is Paul? They are servants through whom you believed, as the Lord has assigned to each his role. I planted the seed, and Apollos watered it, but God made it grow. So neither he who plants nor he who waters is anything, but only God who makes things grow. He who plants and he who waters are one in purpose, and each will be rewarded according to his own labor. For we are God's fellow workers. You are God's field, God's building. And finally, we're going to read Psalms chapter 46. God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in times of trouble. Therefore, we will not fear, though the earth is transformed and the mountains are toppled into the depths of the seas. Though their waters roar and foam and the mountains quake in the surge. Selah. There is a river whose streams delight the city of God, the holy place where the Most High dwells. God is within her. She will not be moved. God will help her when morning dawns. Nations rage, kingdoms crumble. The earth melts when he lifts his voice. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Selah. Come, see the works of the Lord who brings devastation upon the earth. He makes wars to cease throughout the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the shields in the fire. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted over the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Selah. May the Lord bless the reading and hearing of his word.